Hello, welcome to my course titled Artist Housing. I'm very grateful you're here. I wanted to share this information for a long time, so I'm happy that I found a constructive way to provide the information. So let's get into it. So artist housing, what is artist housing? It's exactly what the word says it is. It's housing for artists. In addition to being housing for artists, it's low income housing. So it's ideally it would be a building, apartment building, but the tenants will be compiled of artists, maybe veterans, elderly, maybe people who are facilitating stability from coming out of a shelter program. But this is like the system of it. It's a state system. And there will also be a nonprofit program working within this space. What their work is exactly, you have to seek and find out. Mostly they'll have resources to help tenants maybe in financial strife or situations, right? But they'll have a parameter around the amount of times that they can help you, but it is functionally there. Artist housing is not marketed, and I believe it's not marketed because it will be received as discriminatory because they're choosing the type of tenant that they want. But it's discrimination in your favor if you're artist and if you're low income, because you can navigate a safe space to live. I found out about it by happenstance. I'm from Philly, and I lived in Court Street Art House. I went to a first-time homebuyer workshop, and it was in a building for artist housing, and I applied. I was on a wait list for 2 years. I completely forgot that I applied. To this day, the artist housing, they don't have to tell you how they do their process, but I find it very questionable. Because the application for artist housing will not have anything on it for you to identify yourself as an artist at all. There's nothing asking for your degree. It's nothing asking for your resume. It's basically a regular application for housing. The only difference is they're telling you the income limits that you can minimum and max at with it. And they give you that information. Or they should be giving you information. That should be public domain. This is what we consider applicable. But there's no space for you to identify yourself as an artist. So the preference of an artist, that's where it's tricky. Those programs are presided for two companies. So there'll be a property management company, which has nothing to do with artist housing. And there'll be a nonprofit state-funded system, which is offering funding to the artists. So, or just funding in the sense that that's why the rent is lower, because it's like a subsidized program. So at least in Philly, that's how it was. It was two separate spaces. It was kind of odd to me because they never verified me being an artist. And it was the only time I was like, yo, I got my degree ready. I got a degree in art and I'm so excited to share this. But there was no space for that. The property management company had they were almost ignorant to what it was to be an artist. Majority of the tenants in the building that I live in weren't artists. If they were artists, they didn't like talk about it. It was weird to me because I went to college in New York and I lived in New York for some time before getting the housing in Philly, and every day I talked to strangers, and I felt like specifically in that building there was no communication at all. You had to seek it for sure. And after living life on my own, being in a smaller space, and especially being in a space that was defined by low income, felt really uncomfortable for me. So I had an ideal about it, like, oh, this is great, but I just felt uncomfortable. This is my experience. I'm just giving you feedback. Because it was low income and artist housing, the building had access to my apartment all the time. So they immediately, when I moved in, they were putting flyers on my door. We got to do this inspection, this inspection, this inspection. And I couldn't schedule it. That in itself was very uncomfortable for me because I live alone. So I felt like every other day a new person was coming into where I lived. It was very uncomfortable, but that was the way that they did business. So it was just, that was uncomfortable. But I think that's because that's under the provision of low income, and when you're in low income housing is entitled to inspections. But it was like so many of them. Something else that happened while I was there is that they're constantly checking your income. So whether this is really their job or not, I don't know. But I know you will have like annual or golly. You will have annual or semi-annual. I think I put my phone down too much in the stabilizer. You will have annual and semi-annual checks. And that's when they're going to look through your income. But you can look through your own income. But we'll move on to this in section 2 and 3. But I just want to get you a clear synopsis of what it is. It's housing for artists. It's low-income housing. It's managed by 2 separate systems. And yeah, you're going to have to deal with those 2 systems. So as a word of advice, I would say as you approach artist housing, be aware of those systems and begin to get points of contact for the people that are responsible for those systems, because you're going to be responsible to play a role. So you need to know who you're playing the role with. Is that clear? Okay, let's move on to step 2.